Hi, we're Quaint and Curious Volumes. My name is James. Today's Tuesday. Some people call it Tag Tuesday. And not to belabor the point, that means that we booktubers will get a list of prompts and answer them and maybe tag other people, meaning we'll indicate that we would like to hear their answers to these prompts as well. Today I'm going to do a tag that I've seen a lot of people do recently, which is the mid-year freakout book tag. I am utterly unfazed, but I'm still going to do the tag. So just imagine that I'm freaking out in the Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention sense of bass heavy, pseudo psychedelic, pretentious music, something like that. Anyway, so here's the first prompt. The best book you've read so far this year. Oh, easy, right? I've had a great half year of reading. I've read so many amazing things. I've been having a great time with my reading this year, and it's hard for me to pick one. The list of things that I wrote down as like books that I read that amazed me. It sounds like boastful to even. I don't even look. Okay, Time Regained, Books of Jacob, Haunting of Hill House, Treasure Island, Brothers Karamazov. When We Cease to Understand the World. That's enough, right? And I've read so many other great things. So I can't pick a best book. It's been amazing how much great stuff I've read this year. The best sequel you've read so far this year. All right. Last year when I did this, I was able to make the extremely pretentious claim that the best sequel I'd read was It Within a Budding Grove by Marcel Proust, because it was the only sequel that I'd read up to that point. Okay, so I'm going to have to say the best sequel I've read this year by this point is Time Regained, or Finding Time Again, or Finding Time Again, I think is what another translation calls it, by Marcel Proust, the final volume of In Search of Lost Time. It's an amazing summation of everything that happens, ties it all together. It's beautifully written, like everything. It's amazing. Time Regained by Marcel Proust, best sequel, if you can call it that I've read this year. New release you haven't read yet, but want to. I don't read a lot of new releases, but I am looking forward to Yoko Ono, the biography by David Sheff that came out this year. I probably don't need to tell you who Yoko Ono is. Famous Fluxus artist, survivor of World War II era Japan, married to a mildly successful musician. Just a fascinating individual. Let's see, number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. There's a couple of books I'm looking forward to. Alice Gerrard has a memoir coming out from University of North Carolina called Custom Made Woman, which is just a really weird title, but there you go. Alice Gerrard, most of you probably don't know who she was or who she is. She's still alive. But she was a musician and a folklorist in North Carolina and Virginia area, very active in the 70s and 80s, collected a lot of the made recordings and wrote about a lot of the people who were very influential on me as a musician. And she was the founding editor of a periodical called the Old Time Herald, which for people who are into string band music and Appalachian music was pretty important. And another thing I'm looking forward to reading in the second half of the year is the Tourist's Guide to Yiddish New York by Henry Sapoznik. Henry Sapoznik also visited and recorded and spent some time with many of the musicians who the same ones that Al Shore did, but he's better known for his uh, scholarship and involvement in the revival of klezmer music in America. And so this is a book he's written about the all but vanished culture of Jewish Americans in New York City. Not quite as vanished as you might think. I did a Poetry Thursday on Yiddish poetry a few months ago, and there's more of it than you might suspect. Okay, number 5. The biggest disappointment is well, this was a book of poetry that didn't, to my mind, have a lot of poetry in it. I was made aware of it because it was on the Times list of best books of the 21st century. It was the only book by a poet on that list, and it was Citizen by Claudia Rankine. It was mostly prose, had very little poetry, and okay, yeah, maybe I'm stuck in my hidebound preconceived notions of what it is, and I need to loosen up, Daddy-o. Fine, fine. But it also had a whole section of pieces that are intended to go with films that her partner made, and they just didn't really make much sense on their own, in my opinion. So I didn't get much out of that. Biggest surprise, I'm gonna say there were two. One was the was Earth to Moon, the memoir of Moon Unit Zappa, a daughter of Frank Zappa, and really quite a wild ride. So the Zappas were a very eccentric family, and Moon Unit is it's sort of like well, I mean, to hear her tell it, perhaps the most normal and grounded one among them. So I said earlier, you don't want to be like the child of Frank and Gail Zappa. Look, I mean, they weren't physically abusive. They didn't, she wasn't interfered with, as they say, but still very neglectful, very kind of narcissistic, difficult people who left some weird time bombs in their legacy. I won't say too much more about that. But yeah, let's see what else. And another big surprise for me was James Lee Burke's Cleat, which I guess I might say was a good sequel that I read, but I've never read any of the other books in that series. So this is my introduction to James Lee Burke, who's writes detective novels and things of that nature. I read Cleat because it was part of the Lone Star Book Club of Randy Ray, the Literate Texan. And it's a strange detective story. The narrator is a guy named Cletus, who's a bail bondsman in New Orleans, and is best friends with a police detective named Dave Robichaux. There's a lot of really strange, perhaps hallucinatory stuff in it, but it was a lot of fun. Let's see, favorite new author, debut or new to you. So here are some that have been, well, new to me. A lot of you are familiar with these people already. Larry McMurtry, Robert Louis Stevenson. Hey, have you heard of him? He's really good. And Benjamin Labatut. So these are all new authors that I am very much looking forward to reading more by. Also throw in James Lee Burke there. I'll read more of his stuff. But Stevenson, yeah, I read Treasure Island and Jekyll and Hyde. A lot of fun, those books. And Larry McMurtry, I read Lonesome Dove, of which I'll have more to say later on in this tag. Benjamin Labatut is the author of When We Cease to Understand the World, which is a weird kind of fiction, nonfiction hybrid. It was recommended to me by an old friend from high school who I recently had a conversation with. It was a lot of fun, and he said, This is the only book I've ever read where I finished reading the last page and I immediately flipped back to the first page to start it again. And well, I mean, you can't get much more. It's okay, so I didn't do that, but I did really enjoy it. And if you're interested in science and 20th century history, there's a lot of that. Apparently, as it goes on, it it starts off and it's basically an essay about the scientist who uh, figured out how to extract nitrogen from the atmosphere, but also was instrumental in creating Zyklon B, the poison gas which was used to exterminate people in concentration camps. So, and then it continues with these short kind of biographical essays of scientists, physicists, mathematicians, but they're all, as far as I know, real people like Schrodinger and Heidegger, and they get more and more fictionalized as the book goes on. Um, Hard to describe the book. It's short enough that I think you ought to just, if you can get a copy, just give it a try. Start reading and see how you like it. I think you'll want to keep going if you once you start because it's really well done. Um, Newest fictional crush. I don't have Grushenka. Everyone's in love with Grushenka and Laura in the Brothers K, and everyone's in love with Lorena in Lonesome Dove. So I guess if I were in those books, maybe I'd be in love with them, but no, no. Let's see. Newest favorite character, Will Barger, rest in peace from Lonesome Dove. The name Roscoe does not inspire confidence. A book that made you cry. So this, I usually don't get that many tears jerked out of me, but Lonesome Dove did in a couple of places. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. A book that made you happy, The Upstairs Delicatessen by Dwight Garner. I've shown this book on this channel a couple of times. I got it as a birthday present to myself. It's a short, breezy little read. Dwight Gardner is the book critic for the New York Times, and it's a book that's kind of on the connection between food and reading. It's just sort of a fun thing with a lot of quotes from great books. And let me give you a little taste of it. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Okay. Let's see. I thought it was over here. I thought it was. Is it? Ah, okay, yes. In New York City needs a coffee shop that sells a specialty drink called the Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard's method was to fill a cup with sugar until the mound rose above the rim. Then he'd pour strong black coffee on top, slowly dissolving the pyramid. Then he'd drink the devil-ready result. I made one of these once. It made me feel like a werewolf. MFK Fisher told us that coffee is the one thing never to economize on. Maybe she's right, but food people say that whatever they're talking about, eggs, fish, oil, vanilla, yogurt, is the one thing never cheap out on, so your shopping bill approaches the cost of a speeding ticket. Yeah, they do say that. This also has, I think, one of the most amusing footnotes I've ever seen. And here it is. If you spend time in diners, like I do, it's hard to keep a nimble figure, what with all the fries, triple-decker sandwiches, and stale cake. And then there's an asterisk, and at the bottom it says, I love stale cake. So, this is not like a pretentious David Foster Wallace thing with lots of weird footnotes. It's that one and a couple of others. I just like that. I love stale cake as a footnote. It's fantastic. That's the best footnote I've read this year. Let's see. And I read this in a day, and I am not a read a book in a day kind of person. I'm not a especially fast reader. The most beautiful book you've bought so far this year or received. Okay, so I've got two I'm going to show you in two different categories, new and sort of vintage. So the vintage book that I bought at the Shepherd Center book sale, I've shown this before. It's just an old illustrated edition of Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it's got, it has these fantastic end papers and of sword fighting. And then there's illustrations throughout. And, the cover has this great motif of a pistol and some ropes and quills and all kinds of cool old-timey adventurer stuff. Look at this. Look at this illustration here. Isn't that fantastic? Okay. So, have not read it yet, but very much looking forward to it. I don't think I'm going to get to this year. But I did buy for myself another beautiful book, and that is the Penguin Deluxe Classic Edition of The Tale of Genji, which is just an amazing object with the deckled flaps and the French edges, that they're famous for, and then little illustrations throughout. This book is fantastic. And have I ever read The Tale of Genji? No. Will I read The Tale of Genji? I'm more likely to now that I have a copy of it. I'll tell you that. Do you have a copy of The Tale of Genji? I don't mean to brag. Okay. Let's move this along a bit. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? I don't need to read any books by the end of the year, but I've told my friends on the internet that I'm going to read a bunch of books by the end of the year. So here's what I've got on tap. I'm going to finish reading this first volume of the Arabian Nights, the Tales of 1,000 Nights and One Night. Doing that as a, it started as a group read, but it's turning into me and Gavin. I guess this is the two of us alone on the magic carpet, and that's going to continue hopefully through the next volume. This is volume 2 of 3 of the Tales of 1,000 Nights and a Night. And then at the beginning of the year, I laid out my plan for reading a series of classics, and one of them I've already started on, the complete stories of Eudora Welty. I've been reading the first collection, which is A Curtain of Green. I've been reading that on my Kindle and really enjoying that. So we'll see if I do all of them, but I'm at least going to read one of the collections in this omnibus. And then I said to my friends on the internet that I was going to read Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. That's still to come. I also told my internet friends that I would read Henry James's The Portrait of a Lady, and have not started that. I mean, I've read a couple of pages to get a taste of it. And there's the small matter of, I said I was going to read The Count of Monte Cristo this year. I think that after I finished A Curtain of Green, that I'm going to start on The Count of Monte Cristo. So those are the things that I've told people that I would read this year. I've got some other possibilities. There's book clubs that always come up and reading events. I think for Historathon Quarter 3, I'm going to read A Great Improvisation by Stacy Schiff. I really liked her book about the Salem witch trials, and this is a book, the subtitle Franklin, France, and the Birth of America. So, Founding Fathers and American Revolution. That'll probably be my historical read for the next quarter. I know Randy Ray's got stories of Catherine Ann Porter sometime in the next few months, and I've got the book, so I might join him for that. Um, Also picked up some nonfiction titles. The Captive Mind by Czesław Miłosz, and this just been kind of interested in Miłosz lately because when I first read him, I never really I couldn't understand his poetry. I still barely understand most of it, but I'm making a bit of an effort, and I'm told that this is one of his better prose works, and that it is possibly has relevance to Americans in our current situation. So there's that. I also have this copy of of Other Minds, which is sort of a philosophy of science book, but centered on cephalopods, octopuses, and what are the other ones? Squids. So it's I've had this for a long time. I'm an octopus enjoyer, as you probably are as well, but I haven't read many of the octopus books, the popular octopus literature that we've had in the last couple of years. Your Heart of the Octopus, Your Soul of the Octopus, your octopus in your Gothic Octopus book. What is it? The Remarkably Bright Creatures. Yeah. The Dark Academic Octopus books. I haven't read them. And I've kind of got a weird notion that I should do another one of my patented, stupid reading events, booktube events, to read popular octopus books, maybe including Other Minds and Remarkably Bright Creatures and The Soul of an Octopus, maybe some tentacle fiction in there. Why not? Maybe we could do it in October and call it October. Maybe we could be confusing and do it in November and call it Octember, right? Okay. I'd be the only one who would find that amusing. But let me know if you want to participate in Octopus Reading Month. Anyway, so that's what I've got. Plenty of stuff to read for the next year. Utterly unfazed, not freaking out. Thanks for watching. Bye.